Hey folks, Evil DM here, back with another episode of Papers and Parsecs. This week we're going to be talking about one of the final sections of this book before I get to the actual adventure itself, which I'll do in another video. But in the adventure section, they talk about running adventures and how to basically set up and what to expect, how to prepare for a session. And generally, most GMs with any type of experience do understand this and do this in a session. So when you play Star Wars, preparing for an adventure or a session, the advice that I can give to you is don't script everything out. Don't think this is the only way your players are going to go. If you know your group, and you probably should, unless it's a brand new group, then you don't know them, but generally the group of people you play with are your friends. And you know your friends pretty well. And you know how your friends are going to react to certain situations and how they play their characters, especially in other games. If you're playing another game for them, and generally people do tend to play the same type of characters often. Sometimes they don't, but generally people play the same type of characters, same type of roles, and they kind of act the same way most of the time. I, for one, like playing faces a lot, so I will generally act as a face with a little bit different personality based upon the character. Sometimes they'll intermix, and yeah, I get in trouble for that. But anyway, preparing for a session, you're going to want to read over the adventure if it's a printed module, which there are tons of them that they've done, or you can just make up your own. And when making up your own, you're going to probably want to start with, and my method for starting for adventures for a game session is find out what the goal and the purpose of what you want to get across in that adventure. Do you want your characters locating an item for, say, someone for money? Okay, what is that item? Say it's a part to a ship that maybe this bounty hunter or this person, a merchant, comes up to them in the middle of the cantina, starting in a bar, starting in a tavern, starting in an inn. Same thing can go for Star Wars. A mysterious person comes up to you, heard that you're looking for work, and they're willing to pay you credits to find this particular item. Now, it really depends on your group. Your group may or may not take the bait on this, and they may blow you off. With that said, you have to make sure you have some backup on it. Maybe you kind of lead them into it, not railroad them, but you lead them into the adventure that you had planned if they're being total jerks about it. Generally, with a group, you have an understanding. The GM prepares something, the players just pretty much have their characters roll with it because they just want to play. The GM just wants to run a nice adventure, and you don't want to be sitting around the table like a bunch of dicks. But, so after you figure out what the item is, you figure out how you want to hook them. Do you want to have the mysterious guy coming to the bar? Do you want to have it so that their ship breaks down and they need the part? You want to have them steal the part because of the Empire has the part? You have to figure out why you want to hook the characters into this and try to relate it to their characters. Like if you have a bunch of Jedis, like in our group, obviously when preparing for an adventure, you're going to want to focus things around probably separatists because we were playing in that time frame. If you're not, you're going to definitely want to focus it around something to do with Sith. And if you're not playing for the Empire, I mean, if you're playing in the Rebellion era, you're going to want to be rebels who are trying to defeat anything the Empire does. So you have to relate it that way. Also, it's good to have a GM screen for not only protecting your roles behind the GM screen, also to have things at quick glance. Because there's nothing that slows a game down more than when you sit there and go, I can't remember what that phaser, that blaster, doing things like that, and you're in the middle of the game and everyone just does one of those in the middle of the game. And obviously you don't want to do that. I have a number one rule that we have in our group, that if there's a big problem with a rule or something, we look it up later. The GM, myself, or Corey will just make a judgment call in our group, and we go on from there. And then afterwards, at the end of the night, we kind of look it up and go, oh, okay, yeah, we did it wrong. Or, okay, yeah, we were doing it right. And that's how all games should be. There should be no flipping through books arguing. It's supposed to be a game we're all having fun. So there's no need to flip through books and be like, nah. So just let the GM, that's the point of the GM, that's supposed to make judgment calls. If it's really that bad, call a timeout and talk to the people. But that goes on to a different topic. Session length, they recommend 3 to 5 hours of playing. A short adventure, it really depends on what you and your group could do as far as session length. I've seen it go for 12 hours, taking multiple breaks in between. It really depends. I've seen it go 2 hours. So when I used to play online on Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, I was only able to play for like 2 hours because I would get a headache from playing online. I don't know why, but I could play MMOs online. Maybe it's the fact that I can't see somebody. A lot of the times people wouldn't use cameras and we would just be focusing on a voice and responding. And sometimes it does play a toll on you. If you're only trying to focus on a voice and try to role play a game and you're like waiting and it's hard to see someone's face, well, not see somebody's face, and try to work off vocal cues of people you really don't know or kind of know. So it can be draining. Just like GMing, any game can be draining after a certain amount of hours. And you've all experienced it. When you ran a game afterwards, you're just like, like one of those. It depends on how it goes, so it will tax you. So introducing new characters into the game and intertwining characters for the first time can be sometimes difficult. So it's always suggested that in session 0, you talk about how characters are related to one another as far as how they know them. Not everybody likes doing that. I like to do that as far as characters know each other in some way, so we can skip the whole you're all sitting in different parts of the bar, or you're all sitting in different parts of the cantina, or you're all sitting at different parts of the starport and this person has to bring you together, or you all get brought together by a bounty. And I know some players, not my group, but I know players that I had in the past that can be utter dicks about that and screw with other people and screw with the GM because they get off on that stuff. So I have a thing with a lot of my games. Everybody knows each other somehow, whether it's they know them in passing throughout the town, they come from the same area, they ran into each other before and maybe it was favorable, maybe it wasn't favorable. These are some things that we try to write down or talk about in session 0. And this does give you some advice on how to introduce characters into the game if you flip over to page 87, and it goes through some examples and we talk about getting things rolling, and there's a whole little adventure here, Rebel Breakout, which we can go over another time, but it talks about information for keeping a lively pace, what to do in the adventure, and we'll talk about that next time. But I just wanted to talk briefly about running adventures from a GM point of view and how to get started and what to expect for doing that. Maybe we can go over in the future how to, actually sit and design an adventure. I'm not sure, because I don't really, like I said before in a bunch of other videos, I'm a reactionary GM. I don't really write out and script out any adventures as far as what to do. I only have, like, for example, I don't have a piece of paper here, but I don't have any paper, sorry. But if I had like a small notebook, I would put down bullet points in the notebook of things I want to cover for the adventure. I have my NPCs on a piece of paper. I have my monsters, if there's monsters or critters, whatever you want to call them, on pieces of paper, or the book has this bookmark for those creatures where I want. I have a map that I either drew up, like caves or something, or maybe like a dungeon type area for the group to explore. And I generally have an idea what I want in those rooms. And no, not everything's a long, dark hallway. Be quiet out there. You know who you are. So with that said, let's work on, I don't know, I have to think about how I can do that. Maybe I can show you how I do the whole thing. But with that said, I'm just going to say keep it original, keep it old school, and don't forget to like and comment on the video. Good night, everybody.